finished the Dragon Age Tevinter Nights. I do want to play this game. What can I say about this? I read the first half of this in summer because I was going to be on a podcast to talk about one of the characters that's in the game, Lucanus, for those of you following along with the game and the lore and whatnot. And I really enjoyed the short story tied to Lucanus. I just realized my book has like a flair there. Every little thing always makes me like, there's some anxiety that grows in me whenever some damage happens to the book. Look, after a read, look how perfect that spine is. And then I got the friggin' laminate coming apart. Okay, I'm derailing. The point is, I got about halfway. I did that podcast. It was a lot of fun. Deconstructing the character and talking about how the impact of the story, like what makes me really want to care about the character inside the game itself. And then the last half of this took me a while. I didn't get around to it in September, and then I finally got around to it pretty much in the last 2 days. It's the weekend. It's Sunday right now. I read this Saturday and tonight, but I was, last night and today, there were some short stories in here that I like half DNF'd. I could not make it through some of these short stories near the end, the tail end of this. I'm not sure what it was. I was extremely tired. Sure, that was probably a personal reason there. I just wasn't feeling some of the stories or the writing style, the pacing. Something was just off on some of these stories. I would say maybe 50% of the short stories in this anthology. Some of them were like, I would say like average, like sort of typically expected. I'd probably put the next 40% into the good territory, maybe. And then I would put the last 10% above good. not like 5 out of 5 stars. The Lucanus story for me was probably the best story of this anthology that I can remember. There might have been 2 more that might have been in that caliber. The last one by Patrick Weeks, obviously, a big name in the franchise itself, and about the Dread Wolf, which is likely a bridge to the actual game. That was kind of intriguing, not because it was not because the details of the story were fascinating, but because it actually connected in with the game lore. And so if you're following the kind of the game lore of all of it and all the other works, and you were attached to Solus as a character, that's sort of like it matters more. But the story plot itself wasn't amazing as a short story, if that makes sense. It was cool for the character moments, but not necessarily as a story. And I'm just talking about the last story of this anthology. So, overall, what would I have given this? I probably put it, if you're a really big fan of the Dragon Age games, it's easy to give this a 4 out of 5. If you're not, and that's sort of where I'm trying to put my headspace right now, if you're not a fan of the games, this is probably a 3. It's probably a 3. I hate to say it because I love the game. I love the game. I love the lore of the game. And I'd probably put this in the 4 range from a subjectively biased perspective. But if I were to honestly give this book a grade that was for other people, I would say a 3. I would say a 3. Comfortably a 3. Because I would say some of the stories, the ones that there's probably 3 or 4 that I DNF'd. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so that has to balance out with maybe the 3 or 4 that were like, wow, these are really good. I really enjoy the writing on these ones. And then there was all the stuff in the middle. And I think all of that averages out to 3, and I'm just going to move on.